Would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Kane,
Here.
Commissioner Crowley,
Here.
Commissioner Elmer, Commissioner Starosinek Dean,
Here.
Commissioner Harris,
Here.
Vice Chair Wanika,
Here.
and Chair Lantis.
Here. Okay, next on the agenda is public comments. Persons who wish to address the City Planning Commission regarding items on the agenda may do so as that agenda item is called. Persons who wish to address the City Planning Commission regarding items not on the agenda and that are under the jurisdiction of the City Planning Commission may do so at this time when called upon by the chair. Comments on personal matters and matters pending in court or with other outside tribunals are not permitted. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Any public comment entered via online chat will not be recognized or commented upon. Any presentation is for informational purposes only. The Planning Commission will take comments under advisement. Is there anyone who has expressed a desire to speak tonight?
No.
It's a big crowd tonight.
Okay. We'll move right along then. At this time, I would like to ask the Planning Commission members to make a declaration of any conflict of interest or of any ex parte or outside communication that might influence their ability to hear all sides on any item on the agenda so that they might come to a fair conclusion.
Yeah, I need to recuse myself from the conditional use permit.
Okay, Commissioner Crowley, we'll make sure that's noted in the record. The consent agenda, we have the October 26th, 2023, the November 8th, 2023, the November 30th, 2023, the December 13th, 2023, the December 28th, 2023, the January 10th, 2024, the January 25th, 2024, and the February 2nd, 2024 meeting and study session minutes that need to be approved. Is there any of these items that you want pulled from just a general consent approval?
Not necessarily a pulled cow, but the consent agenda, item number 8, does not match the actual draft date. So the draft date shows February 7th. The consent agenda shows February 2nd.
Okay. So we need to amend that, we need to amend the date on that. Is there any other things that need to be pulled or amended? If not, I'd accept a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, moving on. Item number 1 is the conditional use permit for 804 South Locust Street. Clyde Crowley has made the request. We'll open the public hearing. And Zach, would you like to give your presentation?
Yep, I'll go ahead and get started here. I'll share my screen. Sorry, has it gone large on your end? There we go. A little delayed, sorry. All right, so this is an application for a conditional use permit at 804 South Locust to allow the construction of a 2-family dwelling on the currently vacant property. Summary of the location, again, it is located at 804 South Locust. The current zoning is R1, low density residential, and the future land use does designate this as residential. The 3 maps on this slide show an aerial view of the property. The center image is of the current zoning, and the right hand is the future land use zoning according to our current future land use map. This slide has the existing conditions of the property. We have a slightly closer view of the aerial of the property and a recent photo of the property in the top right-hand corner looking southwest from the corner of Locust and 8th. The surrounding land uses do include low-density residential properties with some additional duplexes located 1 block over along Pecan Street. And here we have an image of the proposed structure. It is, like I mentioned, a duplex. This is a fairly standard and straightforward elevation of what is proposed for that property. And then here we have the proposed site plan. The proposed site plan would meet the requirements as outlined in our zoning code. The only thing of note, which I'll dive a little deeper in a little bit later on, is just the facing of the property along 8th Street would change the address from Locust to an 8th Street address, and that is not a major concern by city staff. That's a fairly easy administrative task on our part to amend. So a little more background here. As I stated before, the lot is currently zoned R1 low density residential and is approximately 0.22 acres or 9,400 square feet and has been a vacant parcel for an indeterminate amount of time. Within the R1 district, two-family dwelling units are allowed with a conditional use permit. For a two-family dwelling, the required minimum lot area is 4,500 square feet per dwelling unit, which this property does meet. The required minimum building setbacks applicable to this site are 20 feet on the front, 6 feet on the side, 10 feet on the side abutting street right-of-way, and 10 foot in the rear. And as I mentioned in the previous slide, it is of note that this project does reorient the front yard to front west 8th Street, which is not an issue within the zoning regulations, but will require a readdressing of the property. And this just recovers the zoning of the property and the intent of the R1 district, which is to provide primarily for one-family dwellings with accommodation for 2 and 3 family dwellings, and this is provided for by the CUP process. And in the zoning and comprehensive plan, the current zoning of the property would allow for that proposed development, and it would meet the stated goals of the comprehensive plan, which is to support development of affordable and appropriate housing for all segments of the community. Jumping into our criteria for recommendation, number 1 being whether the approval of the conditional use would be consistent with the intent and purposes of these regulations. Staff finds that the proposed two-family dwelling unit would be consistent with the intent and purpose of the zone in which it's located. As I stated earlier and showed on the map, the surrounding blocks are zoned R1, which allows for accommodation of two-family dwellings. This area of the city in particular is older, largely reflecting the density of the built environment as it was when the city began to develop early on. It also makes use of a long vacant lot, which does create infill residential development and increased housing opportunities for those looking to move either into or within Ottawa. Item 2, whether the location of the proposed use is compatible to other land uses in the surrounding neighborhood. The proposed dwelling would have compatible design with the surrounding neighborhood, as shown with the elevations in the previous slides, and would not create negative visual contrast with existing residential uses. And the proposed dwelling would be compatible with the surrounding area and make use of a vacant lot that is well suited for this type of infill residential development. Item 3, whether the proposed use places an undue burden on the existing transportation, utility, and service facilities in the area affected, and if so, whether such additional facilities can be provided. Staff found that the proposed use would not place undue burden on transportation, utility, or service facilities, as what is already there will continue to be sufficient to serve this use. 4, whether the proposed use is made necessary or desirable because of changed or changing conditions in the area affected. The proposed dwelling would help meet the growing need for housing in Ottawa, and construction of a duplex is a positive outcome and is a good reuse of a vacant lot, and roads and utilities are currently available to access that lot. Item 5, the length of time that the subject property has remained vacant or undeveloped as zoned. Apologize on this one. So infill housing is desirable, as it says right here, but staff was not able to actually determine the length of time that the property has been vacant. I did look through previous records, but I was not able to find a specific demo permit or any other form of specific record in our system. But it has been vacant for a fairly significant length of time. There's fairly large plant growth on the piece of property, as you saw in the image, so been vacant for a while. Item 6, whether the applicant's property is suitable for the proposed conditional use. Staff did find that it is suitable for the proposed development. At 9,402 square feet, the lot meets the minimum area of 4,500 square feet per dwelling required for two-family dwellings in an R1 district, and the proposed building would meet the required standards as set forth by the zoning code for height and yard regulations as required. Staff does recommend that the conditional use permit to allow the development of the proposed dwelling be approved. The project as proposed meets applicable standards and is compatible with the surrounding land use and is generally consistent with the neighborhood's physical character, as well as the stated goals and intent of the zoning code and future land use map. These last few items, starting with number 8, are whether the proposed conditional use would be in conformance and further enhance the implementation of the city's comprehensive plan. Staff did find that the use is consistent with the comprehensive plan. It addresses the need for a variety of housing types within the city of Ottawa, allowing for appropriate and affordable housing for the community. If the conditional use complies with all conditions of which the approval is made contingent, will not adversely affect the property in the area affected. As I've stated before, the dwelling appears to be a good fit for the neighborhood and will not adversely affect neighboring properties. Designed to be functional and attractive, and it meets standards for density and building setbacks. Item 10, such other factors as the planning commission may deem relevant from the facts and evidence presented in the application. Staff did not find any other relevant factors to present to the planning commission on this proposal. This item was brought before the commission in a study session, and there were no additional factors to be researched at that time, and staff has not found any additional factors that would have changed the recommendation. And the final item included with our CUP applications for any uses such as solid waste disposal facilities, sanitary landfills, etc., that it would be consistent with the adopted solid waste management plan of Franklin County. And this factor was not applicable, but it is included as it is one of our listed items. To summarize, staff determined that the requirements of considerations were met by the application and that the proposed CUP would conform to existing zoning and adopted plans and regulations and would be suitable for the location. Staff presented these findings at the 2/29/2024 study session, and based on these findings, recommends approval of the request for a conditional use permit at 804 South Locust.
Okay, thank you, Zach. Does anyone have a question for Zach?
I just have one quick question. Looking at this picture, and part of it, of course, is the time of day that this satellite is because the shadow casts over. Is the house at probably 810 South Locust on or over the property line?
Not to my knowledge. It is likely the angle of the image. Let me pull that back up.
It's just so close, like that orange box for the property we're discussing seems to go through the picture.
Yes, that it is very close. It is not over the property line. I've zoomed in on that property before, and the current setbacks for this project do meet the standards and would be significantly distant away from any other structures.
From the
You
structure
are
as
correct.
well,
That house
okay.
is extremely close. It clearly exists on one of the original lots that the city had, so it was built prior to our current standards. So it would be non-conforming, but it is legal as far as that part is concerned. It is just very close.
I
Thank
would
you.
say that if you look at the lines, like if you look, the Skunk Run line right there.
Yeah.
See how that's skewed too?
Yeah.
Because they're not perfect.
Yeah.
They're not, it's a computer system.
Just gives you an idea.
Chair Lantis, would you like to close the hearing?
Is there anybody in the audience that would wish to speak to the hearing?
No.
I don't believe so.
No, well, I can't see the
No,
audience.
understood,
I
yeah,
don't know if all empty chairs or not.
Yep.
Okay, well, if there's nobody that wishes to speak to it, I will close the public hearing. And is there any discussion among the commissioners? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to, since we're not modifying, to accept the findings as presented.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Kane,
Yes.
Vice Chair Wanico,
Yes?
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley.
He had to
Abstaining.
Yeah, I'm not
recuse.
voting.
Yeah.
Chair Lantis
Yes.
and Commissioner Starosinek Dean.
Yes.
All
Motion
right.
passes. Sorry.
Motion passes. Now we need a motion to recommend approval or denial to the conditional use permit at 804 South Locust to the City Commission.
So moved.
Is that
And
moved
I'll
to approve?
second. Yes.
Okay, there's a motion to approve, or to, yes, to approve or recommend approval, I'm sorry, and a second. Would you call the roll?
Second is from me.
Yes, you seconded it, Dr. Wanika.
All right.
Commissioner Starosinek Dean,
Yes.
Vice Chair Wanico,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley abstaining,
Correct.
Chair Lantis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kane,
Yes.
Motion passes. Do we have any new business on the agenda tonight? Do we have any staff comments?
I would have two comments. One would be thank you very much for attending, everybody that's here in person, and Chair Lantis for dialing in from vacation, and Vice Chair Winika for making the effort to dial in. Really appreciate the effort that you've made to attend. I also like to highlight that we have a need for new members. Appreciate the service of everybody that has been serving. We are losing 3 folks who are not in the development community, so that's a real loss. I would love to see you all recruit your replacements. We need to continue to have diverse viewpoints, and so if anything that folks can do to recruit, we need 2 folks from outside Ottawa, but within that 3-mile range, and then 1 in town. So those would be my comments, Chair Lantis.
All right, thank you. Announcements, the next regularly scheduled Planning Commission study session will be Thursday, March 29th, 2024 at noon. The next regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting will be Wednesday, April 12th, 2024 at 7 p.m. If there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion.
There were a couple of people who made the motion. Is there a second?
I have Kane for the motion.
Okay.
And I'll second.
I have Juanika for the second. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, see y'all next week.